Welcome to the Traitors, a Traitors podcast. My name is David Bloomberg, and I'm your host for the 4th and 5th episodes of the Traitors US Season 4. Now, I suspect most of you already know me, but for those who don't, I've been covering reality TV for over 25 years, including over 10 years on podcasts, and before that, all sorts of places. And I'm still pretty much wherever anyone will listen to me talk about reality TV. Today, we have a special guest who is probably very familiar to other regular listeners and viewers of the Traitors. It is MaJiKer, who is an award-winning, platinum-selling songwriter, producer, and life coach, and, as I mentioned, a regular on this podcast. He has watched around 40 seasons of the Traitors internationally, including all the English and French language seasons, plus some Nordic versions, and the excellent first season of the Traitors India, which we also covered here on the Traitors. So, welcome, MaJiKer.
Hi, David. So happy to be back with you.
Yes, happy to have you back. It was funny because for so long we appeared on different podcasts, and then one time I was looking for a guest, and I said to Matthew, I said to him, I'm like, what about having MaJiKer on? He was like, oh, yeah, that would be a good idea. So,
yeah, we're like a kind of extended family, and
Right.
you never know quite who's going to show up to dinner, but tonight it's you and me.
Yes, yes. Now, as we get into this episode, last week I predicted the Traitors would murder Eric and Ron would be the next one banished. Did you have any thoughts coming in, or?
Trying to think back because we've had 5 episodes in very short space of time.
Yes.
It's really tricky to keep up with it. You know, I'm not a natural predictor, so if I'm not on this podcast, I ain't going to be predicting anything.
Yeah,
Having said that, I definitely thought it would be one of the quieter ones, or at least I thought they should murder one of the quieter ones. So I was pretty sure that Ron wouldn't be murdered. So no, I didn't have a prediction, but the way that particular bit played out all made perfect sense to me. Where we're going to go with these episodes, a couple more surprises.
Yes. So let's get into these with breakfast. Jam, Natalie, Rob, Monet, and Maura are first. Rob tells us he only tries to think of himself as a faithful and play dumb, which there's a joke there, but really, I don't think Rob is dumb because, like Rob Cesternino said in his interview, that it wasn't suspicious when Rob R. and Lisa were playing chess. This was something that some people had brought up online, like, oh, Rob Cesternino, he clocked the conga line as something, but he didn't clock them sitting there playing chess. Well, what Rob Cesternino said was that Rob R. did it a lot, and it seemed like he wasn't really playing the game of the Traitors. It seemed like he just wasn't doing anything. So there's some explanation there, and I think the way Rob R. says he's playing dumb, it is working for him.
Yeah, I think so. And I was really unconvinced in the first 3 episodes. And then I just started to see this kind of, I think when you're a traitor, you need to adopt a personality, like a persona.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see that Lisa has adopted one that isn't quite working for her, which is just quiet, because no one can believe that Lisa Rinna is going to be a quiet person. Same has happened with several other players like Donna. Like when you suddenly say, oh, well, I've got this role, so I'll play it like this. But I do think this is working for Rob R.
Yeah, in part because he's less of a known quantity. You know, you've got all these people who know Lisa, and I think very few who know Rob.
Yeah.
So Monet tells them they need to test those who come back from having been tied up in the forest to see if the stories line up. So this is basically the same thing the faithful tried to do with Carolyn last season, but Carolyn got saved by other people accidentally piping in. We'll see if that happens this time. Next in are Dorinda, Johnny, Stephen, Tiffany, and Mark. So basically, and then they were followed by the rest of the people who weren't tied to trees. So no surprises there. The first of the tree people to show up is Ron. They start questioning him about what happened. The only interesting part is that the traitors had to walk around the people at the trees, and he says he believes there were three of them. And he adds that one of them had extremely light footsteps, and the lightest person he knows is Mora. Now, here's the thing. That this just drives me crazy because he will follow up on this later and therefore assume that Mora is a traitor. Okay, just because she's the lightest person, if there are other light people there, which there are, unless you have done a comparison, okay, I'm going to listen to all of their footsteps out in the forest and see whose is the absolute lightest. Like, he just jumps to the extreme, not just a light person, but the lightest.
Yeah, I mean, I'd consider myself a really good listener. We're going to see this as well a little in a moment with someone else. But these players are overstating how much they can hear and how much they can get. I mean, I do not even know how he could tell there were three. Okay, just about at a push, if they were a bit spread out, you could say, well, that's more than two. But I mean, you could get a sense that there was someone walking lightly. And yes, there probably is a smaller female. There's a lot of females who are not as big as
Right.
the big football player guys. So, okay. But I mean, that's ridiculous to say, oh, it must be Mora. I mean, ridiculous. It's interesting, and I'm glad he did it because it makes good TV.
Right.
But I mean, the logic here, David, the logic is
Yes.
not logicking.
Yes. Well, and the funny thing is, you say, how could he tell it was three? Well, at first it's like, wow, that's really good. He figured out there were three. But then later we'll find out one says there are two and one says there are
Yeah.
four.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, they're just all scattershot, and he just happened to be the first one in.
Yeah.
Dorinda tells us she still thinks Ron is a traitor. A few people ask Michael who was with him when he walked around the trees, and Michael just kind of freezes, like he's trying to process the question, and then realizes, oh, okay. And so, Michael tells us he's trying to work on his tone because it gets him in trouble, and he's been working on it his entire life. And all I can think of is, well, then you failed your entire life because no. And this is him at the beginning of these two episodes. We know what happens by the end. So
it's extraordinary. And I must say, I was glad that he said that, and I was glad that they included it, because I'm not going to use main host Matthew's language, because he used some very rude words, which I would never be caught saying. But he called him, I think, a nincompoop. I think that was what he called him. A blinking nincompoop. Yeah, he was coming across as really deranged, like really seriously unhinged. And to at least have this moment in confessional where he's saying, all my life I have been told, my therapist or whatever I was getting from it, my therapist told me that I come across, a little bit too much. At least I thought, well, goodness me, at least he has that level of self-awareness, because it was too much. It was just, and funnily, the way it ends up playing out was exactly what I had in my mind. I had a bath yesterday and was lying there thinking, if I were in that game, I would have said, spoilers, exactly what everyone ended up saying.
Yeah.
You are too much. I want you out of my game.
Yeah.
And that's, that's how he played the first three. I found those first three episodes quite difficult to watch, actually, mainly because of him and just the intensity and the level of aggression, not only with him, but some of the other players. These two episodes were much more fun because we're getting into the game a bit more.
Yeah, we'll get to this later. A lot of people were upset when he was cast, with good reason. A lot of people were worried when he was cast. And what I'm worried about is that Peacock will see, oh, look at all this TV that we made. Look at all this, the people yelling at each other. This is great. And they're going to look for more people like him in the future. And that is not the message they should be taking. Again, we'll talk more about how I think he impacted the game later, but nobody should take that message. Cast more Michael Rappaports. No, never cast him again in anything. But the question for me is it worse to know that you are this way and continue to be this way, and in fact, make your living by being this way, or to not know you're this way? Which is worse? I think knowing and continuing is kind of worse than
Yeah.
not knowing it all, being oblivious and not realizing you're acting this way.
Yes, well, I'm not a therapist, but I am a life coach, and
Right.
as life coaches, we're not meant to lead our clients whatsoever. And sometimes you're like, I had a client who was just saying, about a project, like, "Oh, well, I just think I can't do it for this reason, X, Y, Z," and I'm sat there thinking, none of those reasons are true. So then, but I'm not allowed to say that, so I just go, "How true is that for you?" And then
Yeah.
just sit with it, and then eke it out. What evidence do you have for that? And before you know it, they've like, oh, I'm just sabotaging myself and acting in a really weird way, aren't I? I was like, is that how you feel? You just, whereas I want to say, stop getting in your own way.
This is why I couldn't do that job, because I would be like, no, that's wrong.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Lisa comes in and they start quizzing her. Monet tries to trip her up by asking if the henchman had a gold mask, but Lisa thinks for a moment and says it's black. She says her plea to the traitors was she's a good faithful and good at missions. And Natalie stops her and wonders, why would you tell the traitors you're a good faithful? That would be a reason to kill you. Now, this is true, and I think it is an interesting point, but also the traitors already know the person that they're going to kill is a faithful. So it's not like it's revealing anything. I'm a
Mm,
faithful. Yes, we know you're all faithfuls. I mean, she's not, but in this hypothetical.
mm,
Um, Now, one thing that Lisa mentions is the henchman cutting the ropes with an axe. And Johnny quietly notes, Ron didn't mention that detail. That's a big detail. Is it? Is it really? Does everything have to be mentioned? I guess in this game the answer is yes.
I'm kind of on both sides of that because you would, if you were trying to describe in detail, you probably would mention someone coming towards you with an axe.
Mm-hmm.
But I did notice you just skirted over it there, but Monet really tried to catch her out, didn't he? When he said gold mask, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
gold mask. She was like, no, 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 black. I was like, okay, thank. I was actually really invested in Lisa Rinna, which I never thought would happen in my life. I was like, don't say yes, say black mask. And she got it, she nailed it. So I was
yeah,
actually quite impressed.
yeah. Next we have Eric. So I was wrong in my prediction. They start questioning him immediately. He thinks there were, quote, maybe two traders. And he tells us he tells us, not them, he heard a laugh. He's pretty sure that they're a traitor, but isn't saying anything yet, even to us, I guess. And eventually we find out why the producers wanted the big reveal at the round table. So um, finally, we have a flashback to the night before. Caroline pulls down her blindfold to see the traitors standing there. They uncloak, and she says, Rinna, you bitch. And, and then she asks, why me? Candace says she talks too much. And Caroline says that she thought they really bonded. And Lisa replies, too bad, Caroline. Back to Dubai you go. And I'm like, damn, that's harsh. Caroline says, I'll see you out of this somewhere, I'm sure, like at BravoCon. And Lisa replies, no, you won't. I'm like, dang, Lisa, do you think she's really getting murdered here tonight?
Well, hang on. You can't send her back to Dubai unless you're sending her, this is pretty bleak, but her, lifeless corpse back to Dubai. So
Right.
hang on.
Yeah.
How is she getting back to Dubai?
Like, does Lisa think she has the power to ban her from BravoCon? Nope, you've been murdered by two other housewives, therefore you're not allowed to come.
Can I just say this is one of my favorite bits of the whole show? It's become a bit of a tradition. The murder, the face-to-face murder, where the traitors have clearly been told by production,
Yeah.
don't be friendly, don't say you're sorry. You have to be extremely serious and just put on
Yes.
your face as if you're a murderer, and then you have to deliver these lines. And so we get lines. I won't spoil any of the seasons, but these little passive-aggressive
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah.
I would just again, it won't be a spoiler really. Oh, maybe it will. No, it won't. You know what? It was a regional accent in the UK, but if people want no spoilers, I will change the regional accent. Let's pretend it was Birmingham. Yeah. By order of the traitors, you have been murdered. It's just
Yeah.
they take it so seriously with their regional accent. It just sounds so
Yes.
incongruous. I love this bit.
I like that you presume that most of us watching in the US can tell, one British accent. I mean, I know that there are different ones, but I couldn't tell you that was a Birmingham versus
Okay,
whatever.
it's just that this particular traitor had quite a distinctive regional accent
Okay.
that was made famous in the United States because some Brits who had it went over there. I'll say no more.
Okay. All right. Well, Caroline tells us she thought the housewives would have each other's back. Nope. She says only a housewife could look you directly in the eye and stab you in the back. And I'm thinking, or someone with really long arms. I don't know.
Mr. Tickle.
Lisa tells us that murdering a fellow housewife throws people off the scent, which, yeah, I agree it does. Alan joins them in breakfast and smashes Caroline's portrait on the floor. When he leaves, the questioning of Kristen begins. She thinks there were 3 or 4 traitors. So again, between the 3 of them, there are 2, 3, or 4. Jam Jam asks how long the ceremony lasted, and Tiffany perks up at his use of the word, telling Dorinda, you'd only call it that if you were a traitor. Dorinda isn't worried about his choice of words, though. She just isn't upset about that. And I agree with her. I mean, yeah, obviously I know that Jam Jam isn't a traitor, but calling it a ceremony doesn't seem to be particularly terrible to me. But Tiffany thinks it was Ron, Jam Jam, and Michael as the traitors. So she's 0 for 3. And she wants to lead the others into believing the same thing. After breakfast, she begins. She asks a group if they're still voting for Ron. Candace is on board with it because he was so close to Donna. Others think he's been acting all woe is me about it. And then Tiffany goes off alone with Kristen and tells her about her 3 suspicions. Meanwhile, Colton tells Rob, Mark, and Monet that he wants to go after Tiffany, in part because of her eulogy for Ian, which we cringed at the time. Now, since then, apparently you have to toast the person who is gone. But yeah, it was still, just stop, people. Just stop doing it. It's bad. So Colton thinks she's pulling the strings, further evidenced by her pushing for Ron, then Jam Jam, then Michael. He thinks it's all about her controlling things and adds that he knows she's playing way more aggressively. Sorry, he knows that he is playing way more aggressively than he planned to as a faithful. But if he's going to go out, he won't go out as a bitch. And all I can think of is, and you'll still be out.
Well, he won't be a bitch because he's a male dog. So, let's be respectful of dogs and their genders. He does look like a puppy dog, to be fair. He looks like a golden retriever.
Oh, why would you say that about golden retrievers? Man,
sorry.
What did they ever do to you? All right, time for the mission. On the way there, Colton tells Natalie and Kristen that he's at risk and needs a shield, but he's going for Tiffany. Monet shares Colton's plan with Tara and Candace, but Candace doesn't want to target Tiffany yet because she believes she can use her in part. They arrive to find Alan with a fire pit and giant effigies of beasts. They'll have to go into the woods, find spears, light them on fire, and stab the effigies. There are big shields with each player's name on it. When someone sets an effigy on fire, they declare whose shield will also burn. Those remaining at the end will indeed get real shields. Now, apparently some people have commented on the podcast that they don't like it when I say anything about the UK series, even complete non-spoilers. So I won't mention that this mission was obviously in the UK version this season as well. I guess you can presume every mission going forward has a counterpart in the UK version, unless I happen to let it slip otherwise. So, with that said, each burned beast is worth $2,000. There are up to 10, and they have 25 minutes. Monet mentions, apparently just to Candace, and I think for the first time, that Lisa is suspicious based on vibes, but they end up on the same 4-person team for this mission. And they're off. One thing I hadn't mentioned, because I thought it wasn't important, was that cornhusk dolls mark where the spears are to make it easier. They're hanging in the trees. And, I hadn't written it in the notes. And then Michael finds a doll, knocks it down, and grabs it like he's just had a great success. I'm really thinking Michael isn't playing dumb. He just is dumb.
Mm. Yeah, I think, I mean, I consider myself a bit of an expert in listening. I'm putting together a workshop for businesses about how to
Could
improve
you
their
tell
listening.
whose laugh something is? Oh, that's hearing, not listening. Oh.
Interesting. Um, and I would just say people with incredibly loud voices, it's like it's very difficult to be that loud, by which I mean volume, but also in terms
Hmm.
of like quantity of how much you're speaking and properly listen. I suspect his brain has just got all the synapses of firing outwards, loud, outward, all the time, thinking about how everything applies to him. He talks about himself in the third person. It's a bit creepy. Um, and so he just wasn't listening. I imagine he has a brain that is not set up for listening. So maybe, Michael, if you're listening, which you're not, you should. I was going to invite him to one of my workshops, but you know what? I need to have some kind of vetting policy so that Michael Rappaport never comes to one of my listening workshops, because there is no amount of money on earth that could pay me enough to have a workshop with that man on the call.
I mean, if you could mute him, if it's a Zoom call or something, and you could just hit mute, then you'd be okay.
Is there a permanent mute button on
Yeah.
Zoom when you're like, this person, never, ultimate mute? There we go.
Just lock them out. We could see them, but that's it. Well. Uh, Meanwhile, on other teams, Mark shows up with a spear, and the team decides to burn Ron's shield as an easy target. Monet is there next and takes out Tiffany's shield, though Candace wanted to take out Michael's loudmouth. When Tiffany hears that she has been taken out, she is not happy, to say the least. And at the moment, I did wonder if they made the move too soon and revealed their suspicion on her. Tiffany takes the spear from her team and marches up to stab the beast and declare Monet in vengeance. Rob suggests Michael to his group, and they agree. And then Michael's group arrives, and he stabs Tara because she was in that group. He tells us not a lot of thought went into why I picked Tara. And I'm like, well, yeah, you doing things without a lot of thought is pretty much what we expect. So, okay.
Michael Rappaport doesn't think about things before he
Yeah,
does things, says
yes,
Michael Rappaport.
yes. Then, as he runs back to the forest, he keeps shouting out Tara's name while Alan makes fun of him and says, I don't think he understands. He only has to say it once. Um, while they're walking.
Is this that I know we're not playing the Trade Our
Yeah,
Traitors where I have to lie
yeah,
to you, so you know that this is true.
yeah.
Well, we didn't have pets growing up really, apart from a couple of hamsters, and one of them was called Tara, and we called it Tara because it is a rat backwards.
Ah,
So when he was screaming Tara, I was just picturing my hamster anyway.
so this Tara has made a big impact on you,
Definitely,
obviously. Yeah,
definitely, yeah.
yeah. So while people are walking around searching, Candace, who is also on that same team with Lisa, lets her know that Monet brought up her name. Okay. Rob literally picks up Mora and throws her over his shoulder to trot back with another spear at a faster speed. They choose to knock out Steven for not much reason, which is good because I keep forgetting Steven's even in the game. Tara doesn't think he'll be murdered, probably, I guess, because the traders probably don't remember he's in the game either. Colton, Matt, and Kristen decide on Lisa next, and then Ron's group knocks out Mora. Michael tells Natalie to take out Johnny because he hasn't been in danger till now, and she does. Mark finds the final spear, and they head back. They choose to burn Jam Jam because Colton thinks he'll be safe anyway. But Jam Jam breaks down in tears as Mora believes he's pretending. I, I, I don't know. I understand, and they, later, well, in the cars on the way back to the castle, Mark tells Jam Jam it wasn't personal, and Jam Jam says he thinks it was a big mistake. And I think I said this last week. If I were one of the two remaining gamers who won their season after seeing the gamers go out the way they have so far, I'd be upset too. Uh, Tiffany tells Mora that Ron knocked her out, saying he believed she was a traitor and wanted to see if she showed up in the morning. And Mora is fuming. Meanwhile, the total prize pot is now at $90,000 with that successful mission. Once they get back to the castle, as they settle in for dinner, Natalie tells Tara that Michael was the one who wanted to get revenge on her. Meanwhile, we get a shot of Michael eating what looks like pasta, might be macaroni and cheese, shoveling it in his mouth directly from the bowl. He did this last week, eating dinner too, but I hadn't noticed it till after the podcast. This man is an uncouth slob in every sense of the word.
I mean, was it even a bowl, David? Because I thought it looked like a plate, which somehow makes it even worse.
I guess it was like a rounded plate, you'd call it. I don't know.
I tell you why, because in some Asian cultures, they pick up the bowl and you have your noodles, because I've done that too, and I eat with chopsticks if it's like a noodle soup.
Yeah.
And you have it nice and close so you don't end up splashing all over the place.
Right.
Acceptable. Absolutely acceptable. A plate.
Yes, this is a
vegetables and meat or whatever it was he was eating. Oh my goodness! Every time I think of it, I want to throw up. Wow.
Yeah,
and
just literally shoveling it in, and it is definitely dinner plate sized.
The lack of like awareness or shame that he knows he's been filmed and that's going to be shown as on television. Fascinating. What a fascinating man. Hopefully one I will never see again after these two episodes.
Maura pushed the idea of voting out Ron tonight, and people seem on board. For his part, Ron joins Natalie, Kristen, Tiffany, and then Natalie looks him in the eyes and asks, "Are you a faithful or a traitor?" And after he answers, Tiffany's like, "What is that supposed to do?" And I laugh because, yes, what is that supposed to do, really? Nothing. And Natalie says, "I'm just looking for a reaction." Ron says he's not an always-on person, and he didn't realize coming in that being off is a detriment because it makes other people feel like you aren't into it. But he'll probably be gone before they believe him, he says. He's starting to sound like Eeyore. I'll be gone.
He does have an extraordinary way of speaking. I kind of love it. I can't impersonate it at all, but he speaks in these very clipped sentences, and as you say, with that kind of doom and gloom. I think he's such a brilliant character. I'm really enjoying him.
Yeah, I'd be enjoying him more if he was having more fun. But
but even the Eeyore personality is it's a fun personality. I'm sorry for him. He's not enjoying it a bit more, but I'm quite enjoying watching him.
So Mark, Maura, and Rob talk about Colton's plan to target Tiffany. They aren't sure how they feel about it. Stephen asks Colton in front of Tara, Jam, and Eric why Colton wants to go after Tiffany. He explains it, and obviously Jam is annoyed that when he hears what Tiffany had said about him. And then Colton takes off to spread the word around the castle. When he leaves, Candace tells those still in the room that she doesn't like the idea. And so we get to Roundtable. Colton opens by flat out saying that I have in my notes, this is what happens when you start taking notes late at night. She's the traitor he's going after. And I didn't write down who she is, but obviously it's Tiffany. So I threw myself off there for a moment. Yes, Tiffany is the traitor he's going after tonight. He talks about her plan that she laid out, and it was strategy, not suspicions. And he says he struggles sometimes to get one name. And she says, yeah, you're struggling today because you're wrong. But he says she laid it out like a traitor would. I'm not really sure what that means, and neither is Tiffany. But Colton continues. He thinks Ron is a fall guy, and she is the puppet master. And she says, well, I'm definitely smarter than you. Yes, agreed. And she says that Ian and Rob were her number ones, and she would not go for a gamer. But Jam would. And Jam says, well, I wouldn't because I'm not a traitor. And she says, I didn't say you were a traitor, just that you'd go for a gamer. And I'm thinking, he tries to respond, but she says she's not talking to him right now. He's like, we're talking to each other, which is all made even more awkward because they're sitting next to each other. So they're like a foot away from each other. And he's like, we're talking to each other. And she says, no, I'm talking to Colton, and then turns back to Colton and says, She did indeed suggest Ron, Michael, and Jam Jam. And the first two have always been on the table, and she wasn't sure about Jam Jam. And then turns back to him and says, and now I'm talking to you. He responds that he doesn't like the way she said it, but okay. He's not a traitor. She doesn't believe him. He thinks she is a traitor. So, by the way, like no more than 2 minutes after saying, I didn't say you were a traitor, she says he was a traitor. But when he says that he thinks she's a traitor, she's like, write my name down. He says, okay. And he picks up his chalk to do it right then and there. But others are like, no, I don't think you can do that yet. It would have been interesting to see if that was a rule. I presume it is.
I presume it is too, but it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it must be. Because otherwise you could come in and say, right, I'm writing down Fred. Here we go. Fred, done. Talk amongst yourselves. I've done it. Throw my chalk to the other side of the room. It's on the floor now. I can't change it. that would not work, would it? That would be unfair. There would be an element of like,
right.
But I'd love the theatrics of it.
Yeah. So Tiffany tells Colton, just because I can think 3 and 4 and 5 steps ahead does not make me a traitor. All true. And if he thinks she's a traitor, then write down her name. He asks how many F's are in her name. And I'm thinking more F's than she has to give to you right now. She spells it for him and says, like the company. And he makes a comment about, well, I needed to ask because I'm not as smart as you. Tiffany goes back to Ron with a high probability, but she definitely thinks it's Jam Jam. Ron says she's all over the place. Maura says he's all over the place too and said her name. He says it came from yesterday because of the light steps at the tree. And she says she'll take that as a compliment. He says he would like to finish, and she's being very defensive. And by the way, I think these two are next to each other also, which, again, great placement. I mean, it's the way they always are. It's not like they did it just for this, but it works out well. He says she's being very defensive, and she says she's passionate, not defensive, which, by the way, I hate defensive as something you say, because yes, if you are on the offensive against me, I have to be defensive against you.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you watch sports, I'll defer to your judgment. I've heard these words used in that context. I couldn't possibly comment because I don't really know what any of it means. But I do agree when you're saying defend yourself, stop being so defensive. It's like, hang on a minute, which one do you want? Which one do you want?
So it is time for Eric to finally reveal his suspicion. He talks about the plea he gave to the traitors, how he said he hoped his ghost would haunt them, and he heard a laugh. And he's 99% sure the laugh was Tiffany. Yeah, so much for 99%.
Yeah, also, David, where was the joke? Because I was like, wow, that was a real rib tickler there, Eric. I mean, hilarious. Oh, ho, 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 can't stop laughing. It's like, no joke was present.
I mean, to him it was, like, I'll haunt you, It's like, okay.
He's like, guys, I've got a real zinger. Hang on, wait for it. It's going to make them laugh. And when they laugh, I'm going to know who it is. It was probably just like a squirrel or something. Like there was something or like, oh, didn't we see an otter? I think we see an otter in these episodes. Right. It was a nighttime otter. That's what it was, Eric.
Who sounds like Tiffany.
Yes.
So he says he's a musician and trusts his ears. Tiffany says he might need another career. And yeah, she's right. She commends the others for doing the traitors' work for them. She knows she should be handling this differently, but she's taking it personally and genuinely needs the money. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to convince anyone. And it is something I think we talked about. I can't remember if it was in episode 1 or 2 and 3 that, one difference, or it might have been the UK versus US comparison. But somewhere along the lines last week in one of various podcasts, we were discussing how, in a celebrity type version, so many of the players don't need the money. So it's not as important to them to play the game. Whereas you go to the UK for their civilian season, until they just had the celebrity one, people were playing for themselves. They needed that money. And so one thing I said was, well, remember also, though, kind of to myself, that not all the celebrities there have tons of money. Does Eric have money? I'm sure he does. Does, I was trying to think of some of the other, does Rappaport have money? Yeah, unfortunately. But does Tiffany? She's a Big Brother player. She didn't even win her season. She's not out there bringing in the big bucks on a daily basis. So yeah, to her, she does need the money, and this is much more important. But of course, that's not going to convince anyone, because anyone could say that. Like, keep me here. If I were a traitor, I'd say that too. Candace says she feels like they're doing what they did to Portia and doesn't want to make another mistake. She turns things back to Ron again and says there are compelling bullet points for Tiffany, but not as strong as for Ron. Ron says he knows how bad it looks. He took a shot and he missed. Either exonerate him or send him home. Candace says others have brought up his penchant for wanting sympathy, and a few others agree. He says he's not looking for sympathy. He's just always honest. So if something makes him feel bad, he mentions it. Dorinda joins in, and he says he goes where he's wanted. He goes where he's loved. He doesn't chase anything. And I just feel bad for the guy. Like I said, he woe is me.
Yeah.
So with that, it's time to vote. Candace votes for Ron because of the inconsistencies in his behavior and his connection to Donna. Johnny votes for Tiffany because of Eric's evidence. Kristen votes for Tiffany, same reason. Tiffany votes for Jam Jam, which is a really terrible decision for a strategist gamer to make. She had to see it was either her or Ron. Why waste your vote?
Mm-hmm.
Jam Jam votes for Tiffany. Dorinda votes for Tiffany, surprising me a bit. Michael votes for Ron because of the Portia web that he spun. Natalie votes for Tiffany. Rob votes for Tiffany. Mark, Tara, Steven, Ron, Maura, also surprising me, Lisa, Colton, all vote for Tiffany. And Colton says if he's wrong, he'll wear the pie for the rest of the game. And she says he sure will, as will Eric. Eric also votes for Tiffany. Monet votes for Tiffany. And okay, I guess it didn't actually matter that Tiffany voted wrong, but the point still stands. It could have. And we have seen it in certain other versions. One vote can make a difference.
Yeah.
So Tiffany goes to the Circle of Truth and says they should be proud of each other because they get what they deserve, and they didn't deserve her. She's a faithful. She leaves. Shock all around, of course.
That was a really good line.
Yes,
it was a shame. I was like, oh, if you just included a few more lines like that, then I don't know, people might have kept you around. She was a bit yeah, I don't know. I think she was trying to be a little bit too understated. I felt like I don't know her at all, but I felt like there was much more for her to give. And she just didn't shine brightly. I think it's because she aligned herself with Michael Rappaport early on, and that was a bad move. But yeah, I mean, you'll do a why she lost for sure. But yeah, that line was like, oh, I could have done with a few more lines like that, please, Tiffany.
Yeah. And I do think that aligning with Michael was, I mean, she was, not to give away my whole video, she was trying to play the traitor's angel strategy, but she picked the wrong person who isn't a traitor and who everybody hated.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the only reason, obviously, but it certainly didn't help her. So Eric feels terrible. Candace and Natalie say he was brave to say it, and obviously he heard what he heard. And Michael says, well, obviously he didn't hear it. And I hate that I have to agree with Michael. After the roundtable, Colton tells us he's not going to change his play style. He knows that's bold and aggressive and probably not the best gameplay, but that's just who he is. And I'm like, so who you are is not very bright. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I am a terrible player of this game, and I'm going to really double down on that. It's like,
yeah,
good for you. Good for you.
I mean, remember what I said about Michael? The question I asked, is it worse to not know who you are and keep doing it, or to know who you are and still do it anyway? Mm-hmm. Another perfect example. I was wrong. I shouldn't play this way, but I'm going to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Michael and Colton, two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Kristen says that she's paying attention to whoever's putting thoughts in everybody's ears. And Michael talks about, he says one of the three hunks is a traitor, which he happens to be right, but it's Michael. Uh, with that, we go to the Traitors turret. They eliminate from their list Ron, Michael, and Jam Jam right off the bat because they have sus on them. They go through the others, and Lisa brings up Monet because, of course, Candace had mentioned Monet bringing up her name. And the key here is nobody else heard it, which is like the worst of all possible words for Monet. Worlds. And so Monet, you didn't know what you were doing, but it's not like you even said it in front of a room. So I know we're not doing predictions because the next episode is coming right up. But yeah, I was pretty sure Monet was going next here.
It's an interesting one because I don't think I've come across that before as a potential pitfall, that you mention very briefly in passing that you have sus on someone who ends up being a traitor, and because it was so brief and so just the early form, the early formation of something that could have become a snowball that would have got rid of them, the traitors like nip it in the bud, get rid of it, because not enough other people have heard it. So are we saying that a strategy in this game, which again I don't think I've heard articulated before, is that when you have sus, you have to say, even if it's just the first one, say it to one group, say it to another group, say it to another group very briefly, and make it clear that you've said it to other people, I guess. Maybe.
I think so. I think you at least have to make it clear that you've said it to other people. Like, even if Monet told Candace, say, yeah, I've mentioned this to da and da, even if they haven't, just say, I've mentioned it to these people. So Candace can't be like, yeah, I'm the only one who knows.
I mean, I suppose what you could do, which seems like quite a good approach anyway, is say, yeah, I've been chatting to a few people and Lisa's come up and I think there might be something there. You just kind of, because then also it's like, because particularly the traitors don't necessarily want to be the one who originated. I think is it Kristen, Kirsten, the chef, Kristen. I think that she's actually wrong. The one going around putting people's names in people's ears. Traitors aren't going around putting people's names in ears. They're just trying to like go along with the flow, stay under the radar. So
I mean, sometimes they are, but not in this case. You know, I mean, there are situations, but I think more often than not, they just sit back and let the faithful do the dirty work.
Because you don't go up to the turret. Well, again, not usually go up to the turret and then say, right, who shall we lead a campaign against tomorrow? That's just weird. That's just really odd. I know traitors have done that in the past, but it's usually not worked well. But so actually this idea of I want to start some momentum or I've got some suspicion. Yeah, really interesting. You want to, this game is so fascinating. Even after 40 seasons I've seen, you want to express, sometimes you want to share your suspicions, but you have to share them with the right people at the right time.
Yeah, I like this person's name has been going around. So you're not the originator of the idea. Don't blame me. You know, I just heard it. I'm just passing it along, even though it is you. And so it moves things along without getting you in trouble. But even the telling one person, that's such a cliche, even in like, murder mysteries or detective shows or whatever, thrillers. It's like, the person goes to meet with the killer and the killer's like, did you come alone? Yes. Does anyone know you're here? No. Bang. Okay, thank you.
You know what? That's a very good point. And I'm watching that the latest absolutely terrible Netflix adaptation of the Harlan Coben, these thrillers. Sorry if
I hate Harlan Coben. I cannot. I watched a couple of them.
Yeah.
And I hate them so much. I'm sorry. I know other people love them.
Listen, don't want to harsh anybody's squee if you know, or yuck your yum. If you're enjoying it, that's fantastic. I'm slowly working my way through it because I'm finding it almost unwatchable. There is a very funny article on the Guardian website that says listing all these adaptations from bad to unbearable. Like it just they just list them. These are bad. These are worse. These are even worse. They say actually you can kind of hate watch them, and that's what I'm doing anyway. In one of them, and it's not a spoiler. Someone's going around shooting someone as they do, and it's exactly that. Someone just pokes out the back of a building or something, and a young guy, or whatever, and he's like, "Oh no, I've just witnessed someone being killed. They're going to come and get me now, aren't they? Because you don't want any
Right.
trace." So that's really what happened here with Monet. Is that you start to put your little feelers out there, and it's like, oh, I didn't leave enough of a trace. So
Yeah.
that is, we're gonna get there, but I'm sad. I love Monet Exchange. I wanted them to
Yeah.
stay in.
Yes. And so let's move right into episode 5,
Mm.
which will be, unfortunately, Monetless. Um, Natalie, Eric, Dorinda, and Candace are the first in and happy to get the locks before everyone else eats it. Natalie,
Do you
that
do you
seems to
say
be the.
do you say lox for salmon?
I do because I'm Jewish, and that's what we've always called it. So,
Oh,
but yes, if you go to the store, it might be called lox or smoked salmon.
oh, because
Uh,
Swedish for salmon is lax, and I never
okay.
understood it. I was always like, that's a bit of a strange word. So it's the Jewish word for salmon.
So for smoked salmon, yes.
Smoked salmon.
So
Got it.
yes, so you get lox and the schmear on a bagel. Uh,
Right.
schmear is cream cheese. So depending on where you are, that's a very New York thing to say, but it also translates
But hang on
to
a
other
minute.
parts of it.
That's also Swedish. Swedish for butter is smör. What's going on?
Ah,
Lax och smör. Weird.
I mean,
Roots.
technically, I have heard that my name is Swedish, Bloomberg. I
Yeah,
was
Bloom.
contacted once. Yeah, I was
Blomberg,
contacted.
which means flower mountain.
Yes, I was contacted once by a person. I mean, this is years ago. This is like pre-internet in message board days, and I was on an international message board. See, if we were doing the Lion game, this would be perfect. But and they were like, "Are you Swedish?" I'm like, "No," and they said, "Well, because your name is Swedish," and I'm like, "Really?" And so, yeah, and then for a brief time there was a story. My grandfather once told a story about how his father was like one of the OG communists with Marx and had to flee and change their name to Bloomberg. Apparently, maybe they were hiding in Sweden at the time or something. He told this story exactly once. We remember it. We could never verify it. And then various people in my family started doing like family trees and genealogy and all that. Have never found any verification of this. So we have no idea where it's actually come from and if it's true or not. So it's very funny.
Okay, well, I'll call you David Blomberg from now
Yeah,
on.
there you go. I, I sound so international, So
Yes.
Um, anyway, yes, Natalie asks what they think about Ron and Mora. Dorinda says Ron goes from victim to accuser, so if you say anything about you, he'll go after, or about him, he'll go after you. She says she feels insulted that he doesn't really talk to her socially, even when she's tried. And this will come up again later.
Mm.
Next in are Colton, Kristen, Rob, and Mark. Kristen tells us Colton is fishy, but not the lox smoked salmon type, with the way he whipped up votes against Tiffany and missed. Michael, Jam Jam, and Ron arrive. Ron realizes people are not really happy to see him. It was probably the fact that they were like, hi, Ron. Yeah. Um, he's a stand-up comedian or I'm sorry, Michael thinks that he's focused on Ron because he's a stand-up comedian and isn't as meek as he appears. And I think if there's one thing that history has taught us, and Michael should know this, a stand-up comedian is not necessarily the persona they portray.
Mm.
How many stand-up comedians have we later found out suffered massive depression in their lives
Mhm.
while they were out there making other people laugh? So
Yeah.
yeah, you can't judge that by their job.
No, and I mean I think judging anyone by their job is a little bit tricky. Heaven knows we've had enough kind of detectives and
Mm,
legal professionals, and you're like, it does not make you good or bad at
no,
this game. It says nothing about anything really.
yeah. Not to mention the singer just screwed up on his hearing.
Well, exactly.
So
So, I mean, the first thing you learn when you're studying, music theory is make sure you recognize an otter's laugh. When an otter is
Yeah.
laughing, you've got to say, that sounds like Tiffany Mitchell, and not the one from EastEnders. I know you've already covered this, but for
Yes.
British people, Tiffany Mitchell is definitely not Tiffany Mitchell from The Traitors.
Maybe that was his confusion.
He
Maybe
was
he
like,
knew he maybe it was the Tiffany Mitchell from EastEnders that he thought he
yes.
heard.
Well, there's a whole joke here I can do, David, but it won't make any sense to you, but I'm going to
Okay.
make it if there are any British listeners. Maybe she wasn't laughing. She was clearing her throat in order to sing, "This is my moment. This is my perfect moment with you." The singer called Martin McCutcheon, who played Tiffany Mitchell in EastEnders, had a big #1 record with that power ballad in the early
Okay.
90s.
Okay.
Anyway, when will Tiffany Mitchell from The Traitors, if she'd like to do a solo single, a big power ballad, she knows where I am.
Maybe she can pair up with Eric.
She could, and then they sample the otter, and then it's all
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Maura, Lisa, and Steven join them. Mara's upset at the lack of locks. Uh, Finally, we have Tara and Johnny, and people celebrate till they realize that means Monet is gone. Flashback to the turret. The traitors focus on Monet having said Lisa's name, and the fact that it stayed secret with Candace really did him in. Candace tells us murdering Monet really sucked because he trusted her, and because of that, he shared something with her that ended up in Monet's demise. But is that the only reason? We'll find out in my Why Monet Lost mini video after we get Monet's interviews. But for now, yeah, it kind of looks that way. Now, Dorinda suggests their typical toast, which they do. Alan walks in with a bedazzled shirt saying murder. I can't roll my R like he does
I
or
can't
give the
do
right
it either.
accent. So, and I'm like, I want the NBC store to start selling that immediately. I go to Chat BCC, which is a social media app where a bunch of the former traders and even a few current traders players are. Although Colton was there for a short while and then ran away. And Sandra posted, "I want that shirt," and someone has an Etsy shop and immediately created a duplicate of that shirt. So bravo to them for doing that, because it's probably not a patented design or anything like that. I mean, just saying that, I might have to get one. Although thankfully they made it with sleeves. I was not going to wear Alan's sleeveless version.
Did you know, David, as well? Have you ever heard of the detective show Taggart?
No, I have not, which is interesting because I watch a lot of British detective shows.
Okay, well, this was a Scottish one. It was a little bit before
Oh,
my time, but my mom used to watch it. It was very popular, kind of 1980s, I suppose.
oh, okay. No,
Um,
if I see that they're old, I don't bother to watch them
yeah,
anymore.
it didn't.
Usually.
I think they tried to bring it back, but I think it didn't really work. And that was a Scottish guy, Taggart, and there's been a murder, and it was always
Yeah.
this murder with this R, which I sound more Icelandic, but with that rolled R. So actually, Alan doing the murder almost is kind of a bit of a reference to
Ah,
Taggart as well. It's the whole kind of Scottish. We love it when Scottish people say things with R's in the middle because it just
yes.
sounds
Yes.
so.
I will occasionally make Matthew do it, with his
Yes.
Scottish accent. So,
Uh-huh.
um, of course, Alan slams Monet's portrait to the ground and then leaves. Lisa tells us her plan is to push Ron today, and I'm thinking she won't have a difficult time doing that. Little did I know. Um, After breakfast, Kristen says she likes a lot of people there and is having a problem differentiating between like and trust. Yeah, that's the problem with the game. Uh,
Hmm.
Lisa starts pushing her Ron agenda. Candace, of course, agrees, as does Tara. Elsewhere, Maura, Natalie, Rob, and Michael also talk about Ron, but they also note that Colton pushed so hard for Tiffany, and they all just went along. Maura asks, "Why the fuck did we all follow him?" And I'm like, only you can answer that, Maura. Michael suggests it's Colton. It's Colton's night to take some heat. Ron tells Eric and Mark that he thinks he's getting banished, so I just want to say I believe it's Michael and Dorinda. Woe is me. I feel bad because Ron's a nice guy, but once I started doing that, I can't stop now.
I mean, doesn't his surname start with the three letters FUN?
Yeah,
This
his middle name.
was the opposite of nominative determinism.
Maybe his middle name is No.
No,
Uh,
exactly. Ron, no funches.
yes, I feel bad. I really do.
We let's be clear, we love Ron. Like he is
Yes,
brilliant. I'm sad that he is sad, but it is very entertaining.
yes, yes. Um, so uh, it, uh, Ron continues that Dorinda wouldn't let him get a word in edgewise. Mark says whenever Michael is loud in a distraction, Dorinda sticks up for him and says she's known him for years and he's always like that. Colton asks Candace, Jam Jam, Eric, Maura, and Kristen if they want to go Michael or Ron tonight. Jam Jam says Michael is the number one traitor and people are sleeping on it. But Colton pushes Ron. Kristen notices the way he acts and suspects him, saying he doesn't generally ask questions. He comes in, surveys the group, and then reverse engineers what they say to get where he wanted to go. And yeah, that pretty much describes what he just did. He's like, hey, do you want Ron or Michael? And when they start talking, he's like, Ron, it is, you know? So um, she whispers to Candace that it's Colton, and she knows it for a fact. She clocked him. He's not a team player. And I'm like, Kristen, this is not a team game.
Mm.
So we head to the mission. The players show up at the fountain where Alan awaits with Lala and wearing a dagger in his heart. So he should have worn this before he wore the coffin. That would have been more in time order, I feel like.
Where does the murder come? So hang on, the dagger, the murder T-shirt, then the coffin.
Yes, yes.
What about the orange kind of blob?
Maybe that's what he's turned into after being in a coffin. I don't know.
Yeah, possible. I don't know the stages of. No, I'm going to finish that sentence before I
No,
even take it
yeah,
any further.
just stop. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just been relieved that there was only one orange outfit because, Alan is really upping the ante this season with his outfits. That orange one, every time I saw it, it made me feel slightly unwell. It
Yeah.
was so garish. And I don't know, it didn't. Oh, I don't know. I think I'm just a bit spoiled by Claudia because she looks amazing, and it's got this kind of spooky, slightly campy, but Alan
Yeah.
always has to do one better. He's the attention-seeking uncle. Yeah, okay, go for it. You go for it.
What does that make Karine from Canada?
Well, she is. I don't even want to go there because she turns up in almost no clothes whatsoever. As
But she has a purse.
drag queen. Well, Bob the drag queen would say, "Purse first."
Yeah.
Entering the room, purse first. If
Yes.
you know, you know. That's not a spoiler. Go and watch Traitors Canada. It's quite good.
Yeah. Um, their mission is to restore the Fountain of the Faithful by bringing 8 statues from around the grounds. I don't know why it's called the Fountain of the Faithful, because eventually it flows with blood, and the statues are not nice statues. They are like evil little imp statue things. I'd expect to see them on Doctor Who as, don't blink. So
They had some in the Angels Take Manhattan. Do you remember?
yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, when they go, they have little cherubs, demon cherubs.
Yeah.
Mm.
So there are coins in the murky water of the fountain telling them where to find each statue, but lots of decoy coins as well. Alongside each statue, or really under, is a shield. But if none of them take a shield, they will stop tonight's murder. So it's like a variant of the prisoner's dilemma with a twist, because, of course, a traitor will want to secretly take a shield. And if you're faithful, you have to wonder, should I take a shield because a traitor will anyway, or maybe another faithful will because they think a traitor will. So this is running through all their minds as they run out there.
But David, could you just talk me through it? Maybe we don't know yet. Maybe we need to wait for the next episode to know. But we can stop tonight's murder. Something doesn't make sense to me about that, because then it's like surely the same number of faithful are eventually going to be murdered,
Oh
because
yeah,
otherwise they have to add an episode. Like, it doesn't make sense. I suppose the only thing is you could be relieved if they all, I mean, it's never going to happen, but if they could all agree, yeah, yeah, great, there's no murder, then you can just rest and you could say, well, I get a good night's sleep. Then we can see, and oh, the traitors must be so frustrated because they couldn't murder for
right.
one round of the game. It's one of these things that seems like a big deal, but it doesn't quite make sense to me. Unless, of
Yeah,
course, they're paid by daily fee, which is a thing that happens on Strictly Come Dancing, which I found out, where they go, oh, thank goodness we've made it to Blackpool. It's such a big deal to go. I'm so happy to be. It's like, oh, you get your fee gets doubled when you get to
yeah,
Blackpool. Okay, I see what's happening here.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if they do get paid by the day or not, but um, it's you're right. But of course, all the faithful or many of the faithful believe they're in danger. So one
Yeah.
more day means one more day to get out of danger. So yeah, they're all going to have to go one way or another. And later, Michael even makes that joke and says, "Oh, Alan's going to come in tomorrow and say, well, there was no murder last night, which means a double murder tonight." You
Yes,
know,
exactly.
so
What a twist. You're like,
yeah,
what did we do that for? And I mean, I believe the strategy is called, particularly in Survivor and Big Brother, anyone but me.
yes,
So it's
yes,
saying, cool, great. I absolutely want, I mean, which is kind of where this whole episode is going. Let's just get someone out. And that would have been part of my whole logic
right,
in this episode to just say, it doesn't matter if we all agree we don't like someone and we just want them out of the game, then get them out. And I think the same applies to murder. It's
yeah,
like, I do need all of these. Someone said on Drag Race, oh, vote off all of these hoes or something. It's just this idea
yeah,
of like, I don't, anyone but me. I want to win, so just
right.
get rid of them. And I know that sounds super ruthless, but let's be clear. This, like you say, this is an individual game. There will not be 10 people at the Fire of Truth. There will be four. That's how it works.
Right. And the thing is, now here's the thing. The problem is, it is so obvious they're in groups when they find these shields. It is extremely obvious if someone were to take one. It is difficult to do it in secret. If this were a different mission,
Yeah.
I absolutely could have seen someone taking one and
Yeah.
probably multiple people
Mhm.
taking them. But as it turned out, there was like maybe one place where there was a good chance to actually take it. And it
Yeah.
happens to be the final place that they
Yeah.
find.
Yeah.
But if they succeed, they will get $16,000. It's all or nothing. All I'll say is this is a little different from the UK version in an interesting way.
Yeah.
Uh, they have to split into groups of four. So there are discussions about ensuring people have someone they can trust in each group. And there's general agreement not to take any shields. So teams, go through the fountain, they start to head off. Natalie doesn't trust others when it comes to shields, saying an entire team could take four shields. They'd all be safe and they'd never know. And I was like, four shields? There's no way they're going to have four shields in one place. Yeah, I was wrong. Um, all throughout the fountain hunting, Candace is complaining. She, has to go in there, and what if she falls and she'll get a yeast infection? Who's going to look after her coochie? Alan tells us he'll never tire of a soggy housewife. Uh, all four groups get back within 10 minutes, with 10 minutes remaining, and the hunt for more coins begins. So it took them 15 minutes to get the first. They only have 10 minutes left. Are they going to succeed? Michael eventually finds the final coin. Meanwhile, another group is headed towards the second to last statue. Colton tells Mark he thinks someone has already taken a shield, but he wants to at least discuss them taking one. But wait, there are four here, enough for all of them. The other two people in the group are Candace and Lisa. So I'm thinking, wow, this is really set up well for them to agree with him. Oh, I don't know if we should, but if you want to, Colton, we will. And Colton tells us he's one of the loudest voices and has a massive target. So he could see himself being murdered if he doesn't take a shield. And I'm like, no, you big dummy. The
Mm.
fact that you have a loud voice and are a target means you're almost certainly not getting murdered.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, till this point, anyway. And so, yeah, Tiffany was right about him not being very bright.
Mm.
when the final group of Johnny, Michael, Natalie, and Dorinda get to their statue, which they have to cross the river to get to, there are also 4 shields. And Johnny wants to leave them, but Natalie doesn't trust the others. She can't control them, what they do, but they can all protect themselves. And this is the one where I said, because you've got people hauling the statue and you've got people crossing the river, there's a lot of attention going in different directions where you probably could sneak a shield here without anyone noticing. But we don't see the outcome of either discussion yet. They have 2 minutes to get the statues back. So Rob runs out to help carry one, and then the final one arrives, and they turn on the water with just seconds remaining, which I know is shocking to regular listeners that they made it exactly in time.
I just think it's, they're just so lucky that the players, they've perfectly tested this game so that they just end up getting, and this keeps happening. Amazing game mechanics. Really, I think it's probably celestial intervention that they always end up making it with just a couple of, that there clearly is a higher force in the universe that means that these games, that's my conclusion of this.
Yeah, especially since it took them all 15 minutes to get the first round of statues. And yet somehow it took the last group only 8 minutes to get that statue, which they had to cross a river 2 different ways, coming and going, with a statue in hand. Yeah. And somehow they had to, they made that in 8 minutes, half the time that it took for the first statues.
The missions on the Traitors move in mysterious ways.
Yes. All right. Well, the total prize pot is now $106,000, otherwise known as the total that the UK prize pot will ever get to.
You guys have to pay. We've established this. You guys have to pay 50% tax on that. We have it tax free, so we probably end up earning more than you. Okay.
Alan does not reveal if anyone took a shield, and at that moment, I'm willing to bet that at least Colton's group did.
David,
lost that bet, but
just to check here, did all the groups see the option of getting 4 shields?
I did not see the other 2, only the 2 that we saw.
Okay. I did not. That was not clear. I didn't get that. I thought.
Maybe someone will write a comment here and tell us we're wrong. Yeah. I'm wrong. But I only saw it for the final 2, which I thought was an awful big coincidence that it just happened to be those last 2. Coincidences happen, or production may have held off and said, okay, we're going to put 4 in the last 2, and had some assistant run in and deposit 3 more when they were the absolute last 2.
Probably that. Really interesting. Okay. So remind me how many statues there were.
There were 8.
Okay, right. So I totally misunderstood. I thought that all the teams had the option that all of them got shields, and my question was going to be, what then happens if everyone, which I don't think has ever happened in a game, because they've obviously tried to prevent it, which would be very interesting, and that could be a twist, just saying, for later seasons, where all players get a shield. And so, but maybe they don't know. That's a really good twist, actually. And then they go up to the turret, they go, great, who should we murder? Who should we murder? And then host comes out and goes, little do they know that every single player has a shield. Their murder will be worth nothing, but let's see what happens at breakfast. And then suddenly it's like, recruitment, what's been going on,
And then someone will speak up with main character syndrome. They must have tried to murder me because I had a shield. And someone else,
but I had a shield. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
So unless I missed it, I only saw 4 in those last 2. So after the mission, it's time for dinner. Stephen and Dorinda are talking about Ron when Ron walks in, and they get suddenly very quiet. Not suspicious at all. Ron tells them he's 90% on 2 traitors, Michael and Dorinda, who is sitting in front of him. She tells him he should go with that, and her faithful family will stand behind her. And, I think she's right. In the kitchen, Colton mentions Rob, but Jam Jam brings up Michael. Colton notes that everyone who voted for Michael night 1, except Jam Jam, are gone. And just then, Michael joins them, and Jam Jam, oh so kindly, stands up so Michael can sit down and eat. and he sort of starts eating like an adult. I mean, he's using his fingers to pick up broccoli. So not quite an adult who uses utensils, but at least he's not shoveling the broccoli in his mouth. Colton asks Michael if Alan stays in his outfit when he visits them in the turret. And once again, Michael just takes the second to like process what he was saying, and then is like, I don't. What are you talking about? Natalie says that Michael doesn't get flustered easily, but he looks really flustered. Michael tells Colton he's being awfully chatty after having missed so badly with Tiffany. Colton says if he misses a shot, he's shooting again, and I'm shooting you. Michael says if Colton comes for him, he's going to really mess himself up, and he should be more humble, especially after last night. The thing is, they're both right. They're both wrong, and they're both right at the same time.
Yeah.
Natalie moves into a different room and says Michael is still on her mind. Then Michael joins them and says if anyone has his name on their mind, they're about to make a big mistake. As he is ranting, several people literally just get up and walk out of the room. It's hilarious. They're just like, I'm done. Goodbye. Michael tells us he's very aware of when he starts to become too much and gets offensive. He can't necessarily stop it, but he's aware. And I'm like, I don't think you really are, whether in the game or in real life. Okay. Michael comes back to the kitchen, and here's his name again. He points directly at Colton and says, you are a fucking traitor. This is a bad ringleader. After last night, you should be humble and keep your mouth shut. I would be asking questions instead of pointing fingers, he says as he's pointing a finger. Again, Michael's right and wrong at the same time. Yeah. Others can hear Michael yelling several rooms over. Colton says that's the difference between them. If Michael misses a shot, he's sitting down. But Colton is still in the game. Okay, great. You're still wrong, but you're still in the game. Again, we've gone over that,
Yes, I think the football analogies have probably gone a little bit too far. They're very different games. Last time I checked, the goal of any kind of version of football is to get as many goals or points as possible.
Yes.
Whereas the last time I checked, you're not meant to just keep trying to like aggressively go for things in the Traitors without there being consequences to that. Last time I checked, in any version of football in the world, you don't get voted off for being a little too enthusiastic.
Right. Well, I mean, there is a penalty for celebrating too much, for which is, they call it unsportsmanlike conduct. And if you get two of them, you do get kicked out of the game. I think it's a ridiculous penalty. These are grown men. Let them celebrate if they want.
Well, like my mom used to say when when I was younger, because she's a big football fan. I mean, proper football, soccer. And Birmingham City fan, and she used to say when they have close-ups of the football players, swearing their backsides off, she would say, "Oh yes, football, football, football." You can see them unsportsmanlikely just shouting.
Yes.
So what were they saying, Mom? They're just saying football, love. Don't worry about it.
The F word, football.
The F word, football, exactly.
Yes. Colton says, let's see, where are we with this? Michael calls him a manipulative traitor and repeats it several times. Colton says, oh, so he's the fifth person he's accused now. And I'm like, wait, did Colton just say people should keep firing even when they're wrong and then complain that Michael keeps firing at different people? Mm-hmm. Again, they're both wrong at the same time. Michael walks through the castle yelling that Colton is a traitor, and Colton yells back that he wants to end Michael. And I'm just like, can we have a double banishment? Skip the murder, banish them both. Can we just do that, please? And that seemed to be the sentiment on social media, the social media I was on as well. And of course, for those of you who don't know, Colton's backstory, although it has not been brought up, is not angelic either. He has some issues, post being on The Bachelor, pre-coming out. He has some issues of his own with the law and the way he treated a woman. And so you can Google it if you like. It's like someone asked me on a YouTube video, what has Michael Rappaport said that's offensive? And I just responded, Google is free. So anyway, we head to the round table. Candace opens by asking if they want to address the shouting they heard. Michael says it was conniving, colluding, commiserating, Colton. And I'm immediately like, commiserate? Okay. I'm like, maybe he'll explain it. Only, even the other two words, most of them don't make sense. The only one that does is conniving. Last night, he says Tiffany was made to feel angry, sad, and alone by Colton. And he was openly doing it again to Michael today. Oh, that poor Michael. He's such a nice guy. He would never make anyone feel angry, sad, or alone. He would never talk poorly about anyone or any group of people. So, yes, I'm sure he's just sticking up for her.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just, I just feel for him so much. But Michael continues that Colton should be keeping his mouth shut. Michael said he's angry, isolated, and pissed off because of him. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure angry and pissed off is Michael's usual state of being. And the isolated part seems to stem from that.
I sometimes say, if I speak to a friend, they go, how are you? Go, oh, I'm really angry. It's go, hi, really angry. Nice to meet you. I'm Matthew.
Yeah.
And so his pseudonym, his alter ego is, hi, I'm pissed off. It's like, oh, I'm pissed off. Nice to meet you.
Yes. And then he drops the bomb of the episode. He says, nobody in the room would be better at holding a secret than Colton. And everybody's like, whoa. Clearly, nobody expected him to go there. And to be honest, and step away from my natural feelings about Michael, it's not really clear that he did. Though everyone pretty much thinks so. And do I think that he did? No, I think he's just so dumb he doesn't realize what he said at first. But is he capable of going there? Absolutely 100%. So can't rule it out. And, the way he reacts afterwards, as we'll discuss, does not make it any better. Colton says, you think it was fun holding a secret for 29 years? And Michael says, that had nothing to do with it. And you came into the game loving the idea of being a traitor. And then Colton, we see this happen all the time. Colton implants his own words into what Michael says and said, well, you said I was doing it for 29 years. No, he didn't say that. You were the one who said 29 years. I hate to take a side apparently in favor of Michael here, but no, he didn't say that. And we have seen a lot of this. We saw this with Portia, where what she actually said morphed over time. The more people said it. And even what Michael said at the round table, when they were sitting there, morphed the number of times it was said.
Did you? Yeah, and it's true that when words just fly around, sometimes you don't know if they're your words or someone else's. That's just conversation, actually. And if you heard the debrief that we were chatting about before we recorded from Rob Sestranino, I can't pronounce his name.
Sestranino, yeah.
Sestranino. I'll just say it fast enough. Yeah. Rob C. And I think he said in his debrief that he was the one who was saying, I think there were 4 traitors, and made a very compelling case for it. So poor Portia came out and was like, so there were 4 traitors, right? And it's like, no, but she was saying that because of everything else that had been said, and she'd taken on someone else's words as her own. And it's true that in the heat of the moment that can happen. But again, if you want to improve your listeing, come to a listening workshop, because we can all do more. Just the actual answer. I mean, I'm kind of half joking here, but what I found in my research to improve listening is just actually to take a breath, because we want to respond so quickly, we actually don't know what we're going to say, and we speak before we properly had a chance to think about it. And I know it's TV, and I know these are 2 very vocal, loud people, but actually if either one of them was to just take like 1 second and go, I don't think, just to take a breath, then these kind of misunderstandings might not happen. But they're very entertaining when they do.
Michael says, I didn't say that. Colton says, you insinuated it. Johnny says, you can't associate someone being forced into the closet with the game. Michael says he wasn't talking about that. And Johnny says, well, that's the way many of them took it, so he needs to explain it. Michael says Colton's behavior is that of a traitor, secretive, conniving, chirping, commiserating, cowardly. he keeps using that word, commiserating. I do not think it means what he think it means. Many others call it a low blow. And Michael again says he didn't intend it that way. And Lisa points out Colton took it that way. Michael says he apologizes if he took it that way. So let me just say now, this is the worst way to make a pseudo apology. If you mean an apology, be sorry for what you said, not sorry for how someone else took it. Take responsibility for your own actions and words. Don't put the responsibility on someone else. That is a true apology. And that is not what Michael is doing here. This is something that, I can remember, probably 20 years ago when I was at work and someone was a jerk to me. And eventually he apologized, quote unquote, and said, well, I'm sorry if you took it that way. And I'm like, that's not an apology. I called him on it right then and there. That's not an apology. You're not apologizing for your own self. And that's what Michael does here, which, again, maybe he did do it on accident, but the way he is handling it and putting it back on Colton is just the worst.
Yeah. It's tricky. It's funny because I've done some work on myself really in the other direction. Because British people are saying sorry all the time. Someone walks into you and you say sorry, and it's like I'm actually I try not to do that now. I say sorry when I'm sorry, because otherwise the sorry loses its power. And it is tricky though, because look, Michael has a lot to say sorry for, but in this particular instance, I do think there is a way that he could have said, I would like to clarify this because I see that you're upset by it, and that was not my intention. But it's like then it becomes about tone. He's so aggressive in everything he does. Even his kind of fake apology is aggressive, so no wonder it didn't come across well.
So he jumps right back into attack mode and again calls him commiserating. And Rob can't take it anymore. And he tells Michael what commiserating actually means, which has nothing to do with whatever Michael thinks it means. And Michael's like, no, that's not what it means. And remember how I said earlier he wasn't just playing dumb? Yeah. So Colton admits he made a mistake, and the more people who agreed with him about Tiffany made him confident to rally the troops. And Michael's like, oh, just like you're doing now, and you'll have another pissed off faithful walk up there. Colton brings up how 3 of the 4 who wrote down Michael's name are gone. And Michael says, oh, so there's only one traitor running the whole show? And Ron chirps in and says, no, it's him and Dorinda. He's her pit bull. She says, Ron is a housewife hunter. And he says, I don't watch your shows. I don't know who you are, which is probably the most insulting thing you can say to a real housewife, especially based on their behavior last season and especially on the reunion.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who you are. Oh, my God. How dare anyone not know who they are?
He should have said the ultimate burn, which is like, I'm really pleased you're a housewife, but I'm on TV. Because they keep going, I'm a housewife. I mean, it's a fantastic role to have in the home. Absolutely, be a housewife. It's like, oh, they film that? What? And then they put it on television? Okay.
But, him even bringing this up is painful for me. Yeah. Because all I could think of was, dude, the focus was on Michael and Colton. Why? You had a day of rest.
Yeah.
Or at least a couple hours of rest. Why insert yourself and bring attention back to you? No, just stay quiet. Don't say a word. Let them blow each other up.
Yeah, I don't understand, because he seems like such a lovely guy, and yet he seems to be making no friends in that castle. I don't understand. Maybe he was just in a bad mood or something. There's something off. It's a bit weird.
Well, and that's the next thing that Dorinda says, is she tried to get to know him and ask him about his family and where he lives. He says, I don't want to get to know you or where you live, and my family is none of your fucking business.
Okay, well, I'm going to take back the bit about him being a lovely guy, because that's just rude.
I mean, I think he's had it with them, and it's difficult for him to separate the personal. And it's like, oh, Ron, come on, man. He says one thing that's been brought against him is he hasn't gotten to know them all. But he thinks that creates bias and impedes his investigation to know them. Kind of going back to what Kristen said earlier about she can't tell the difference between, friendship and suspicion. It doesn't mean he's not playing to win as a faithful. She says he plays to an audience, and he says he's going to play the way he wants to play. And I'm like, okay, but Ron, I understand what you're saying, but this is a strategic and social game. You cannot ignore that aspect of it, or this is what happens.
Yeah.
So Candace says she still believes Ron is a traitor, and that's how she'll be voting. Dorinda says he's a traitor, and Michael jumps back in to say Ron and Colton are traitors. Colton says Michael has been very lucky to get this far, and several others jump in to agree. Natalie says he's been on her radar for a while, but with the way he spoke to Colton, they should just get together and vote him out. Eric says if he is a faithful, he's the most distracting for the other faithfuls, so he has to vote for him. Michael retorts, says the man with the magic ears. And Maura's just like, you talk too much, Michael. Colton doesn't even want to be in the same room as Michael. Michael asks Colton if the others were laughing at having, or he and the others were laughing at having sent Tiffany home last night. Colton says at this point, he doesn't even care what Michael says when he gets to the circle of truth. And as Michael continues ranting, Ellen saves us all by finally putting a stop to it.
Did you think that there was a bit of I felt like there was a bit of editing there where Alan said, players, stop talking dramatically. And then Michael said a bit more, you stop talking. And I think he was talking to Maura. I don't know. There was a bit.
Yeah.
Because I think that would have been a bit much if he'd, it was made to look like Michael was shouting at Alan Cumming, which I don't think he was.
Yeah. So it's time to vote. But first, Colton tells us that Michael has gotten to the point where he's become offensive to some of them, and that doesn't keep you around very long. Michael tells us he came out of the womb this way, and if you're a trash talker, you might accidentally spit on somebody, but it's just a game, not personal. Okay, but this is also the way you live your life outside the game. So it's hard to tell the difference. Lisa says, on one hand, Michael won't shut the F up. I don't know why I'm suddenly saying F when I've been swearing the whole time. But the chaos he brings is brilliant for the traitors. So it's time for voting. Lisa votes for Ron. Colton votes for Michael. He doesn't want him in the castle. Eric votes for Michael. Even if you're faithful, you hurt us more than helping us. Candace votes for Ron. Johnny votes for Michael. I don't give a shit what you are. I just want you out of my castle. Kristen votes for Michael. Jam votes for Michael. Dorinda votes for Ron. Michael votes for Ron. Natalie votes for Michael. Rob votes for Michael. Mark, Tara, Steven. Oh, nope. They vote for Michael. Steven votes for Ron. And then Ron and Maura vote for Michael, with Maura saying, I'm sick of the Michael show. You talk way too much, but you don't say a lot. So Michael is banished. He gets up and says the name of the game is to catch traitors. They just voted out the best looking, smartest, and dopest faithful. I'm like, wrong on all three descriptions. Dopiest, maybe, but not dopest. And the thing is, usually when someone declares themselves a faithful, everybody else is pretty upset that they got it wrong. Oh no, not this time. They pretty much don't care at all. They're okay.
Yeah. Yes, and I was thinking the same thing. When you have a player that is that disruptive, you're kind of almost, what's the word? You can lead a campaign against them, because if you say, well, I just don't care. I just literally don't care. You know, the whole thing was either a traitor or a really bad faithful. In this case, even those things are irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Whatever your role is, I want you out the game. If I were there, I would literally say, I came to play a game and I'm not enjoying playing the game because you're here. I want you out. And if enough people, which is what ended up happening, if enough people say, yeah, actually, I would prefer to play this game without this player, and just get rid of him. And something that's never been said, or maybe they edit it out of the roundtable discussions, is literally to say, if I were there, I would dare to say, we have two choices when we're at this table. One, we can go after a traitor, or two, we can go after anyone we like for whatever reason we like. And I'm doing the latter, and I'm saying, couldn't care less if you're a traitor. I want you gone. And and again, it's like anyone but me strategy. We all agree, you know, we're not going to enjoy the game more with you in it. You're not adding anything. whatsoever. So
Right.
goodbye. And everyone could be relieved because it's not them that's getting banished.
Yeah. And I think, they kept him as long as they did because they were like, he's not a traitor. He's,
Yeah.
he'll just keep things going and it's fine. But he got to be too much,
Yeah.
and, but so Colton tells us he felt backed into a corner and came out hard, maybe too hard. And I'm like, dude, you were like that from the start, please.
Yeah.
He, sorry, not Colton. I confused Colton and Michael. Michael said that. And Michael says he meant what he said in the context of the game and sincerely apologizes if Colton or anyone took it any other way. So even in his quote unquote sincere apology, he still throws it back on Colton and everyone else and doesn't actually take responsibility for his own words. So he claims to be a fan of the game, again, despite him not being able to understand some basic things. He says he played a good game, except for when it went a little too far. And I'm like, no, you literally never played a good game. At no point did you play a good game. Zero. And then Alan dismisses them by telling them they'll find out tomorrow at breakfast if someone took a shield. So after the roundtable, Ron tells us the fact that Michael wasn't a traitor makes him second guess himself about Dorinda. Jam Jam tells us it sucks that Michael wasn't a traitor, but he's gone. Kristen tells Eric and Mark that if she gets killed in the next 3 days, it's Colton. I'm like, the next 3 days? That's half the damn game. Mark says he made a list of all the names Colton has thrown out, and it's a lot. Separately, Tara, Johnny, and Candace talk about Colton and how he whips up votes. Colton comes into a room with Dorinda, Jam Jam, Rob, and Maura. They talk about getting back to the game now, so he asks Dorinda if Lisa is normally this quiet. Nope. And it's throwing Dorinda off too. Maura doesn't think she's ever heard her say who she thinks a traitor is. And Colton brings up that Portia, night one, was a big red flag for him, that her voting for Portia.
Yeah.
Plus, she wears sunglasses a lot, and everybody should watch her at breakfast tomorrow. She's over the top in her reactions. Jam Jam points out she gave the best description of the face-to-face Forrest murder, and Colton says, sure, she got to see it all 3 times. Rob says he really hasn't thought about or talked to her much. And, of course, tells us he has an alliance with Colton, but also wants to look out for his fellow traitors, though he can only do so much. With that, he's together with his fellow traitors in the turret. It turns out the group with Candace, Lisa, and Colton did not take the shields, and Rob says his group didn't either. So, we don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea. Rob tells Lisa about Colton coming for her. She's too quiet and reserved, etc. They agree if they can murder tonight, Colton has to go. So that is our cliffhanger. Not who is going to go, but whether or not Colton goes.
Oh.
So with that, we have a preview. It is the haunted cabin mission and some sort of dinner that we have not seen in the UK. So I have no idea what it is. It will be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
With that, we can go to predictions. Do you think there will be a murder?
So what are the options? What are the options, David? Talk me through it.
Murder or no murder?
Yes, that I'd understood. How in what configuration could there be no murder? So that means that did they announce they were going for Colton, but they don't know if he's got a shield? Is that right?
No, it would be that everyone left the shields alone.
Oh, so they're not allowed to murder.
Right.
Well, that is new. I've never seen that in any version ever.
Yeah.
That they send off their little letter and Alan just burns it. I
mean, I expect that what we'll see is they won't bother doing a letter if they can't. I think what will happen is we will start with breakfast. And then, just as the last group is about to come in, they'll
Yeah.
all have shocked faces. They will flash back.
Yeah.
Alan will walk in and say, "Nope, you don't get to murder."
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, so what was happening with the batches of four shields? Did you say that neither of those groups took the four shields?
right. I believe, unless I'm misremembering, Rob was in the other group that had the four
Okay.
shields. So,
First of all, I thought these
well,
were
was he? Was he? You know what? Maybe he wasn't because he ran out to help them. See, I didn't. There are certain things
no.
about the missions I don't care enough about to write down,
Well,
and who was
same.
in what group.
Yeah. I
Um,
didn't. It all. It's much of a muchness, really, and they haven't
but
done.
Rob ran out from the fountain. He was already at the fountain when the second to last group
Okay.
showed up. But Natalie was also. I don't. Yeah. Okay. I
I
can't
th-
remember now.
I
I'm
think they
sorry.
haven't done a particularly good job of explaining that, really. Often I don't like being patronized, sometimes even on the
Yeah.
UK version, Claudia will kind of say, so and so, they're tempted to murder, but have they been recruited? I'm like, yeah, all
Right.
right, Claudia. I know you're just recapping, but
Yeah.
it's stating the obvious a little bit now. And actually in the UK, I think they show it now at 8 p.m. So it has no swearing in it, and it's for kids. I have an anecdote actually, sidebar, but it's really sweet. I went to a meditation class on Wednesday night, and as I walked back from it, it's a very residential area, and you can see some people in their front rooms, and I saw several families snuggled up on the sofa watching the Traitors live. It was so adorable, and this is borne out by the fact that the viewing figures are for the UK are absolutely
I
astronomical.
I
They
saw
are
that.
eclipsing it, like overnights of 8 million. You don't
Yeah, that's
understand
what
how
I
big
saw.
this show.
8 million. Yeah.
This is crazy. So anyway, all of that to say that in the American version, normally I think they kind of hold your hand as a viewer a lot more. But this, I feel they've just kind of skipped over it. Maybe they'll explain it, I guess, next breakfast.
I mean, I think it's that if if I had paid attention to who was on what team, but
Mhm.
if I'm not paying attention to who's on what team, who
Yeah.
is, of casual viewers, I mean,
Yes. I
uh,
mean, the
obviously
tra
we will get comments on the YouTube and elsewhere on the YouTube video of this saying, nope, this is who the teams were,
Okay. Yeah.
So I guarantee we will find out before the next episode.
Okay.
Thanks to our great listeners who perhaps
Yeah.
pay more attention to details like that than I did or you did.
100%. Yeah, I defer to the listeners and viewers. Um, what I was going to say is that the idea that it's a cast of Americans, who, a lot of them gamers or at least aware of shows like Survivor that we
Hmm.
don't have in the UK, that the idea that not a single one of them will have gone for a shield, that is beyond possible. They've done that on some international versions, but it's all because they're very,
Hmm.
very nicey people, and they're like, oh, I couldn't possibly. But that's not possible. So I think that option, my prediction, is that there absolutely will be a murder, but then isn't another option that Colton has a shield, that he snuck one
I
somewhere?
mean, but he was in the group with Candace and Lisa.
Okay.
That I do remember.
Yeah.
And so it would have been very difficult for him to do it since they had a specific discussion
Yeah.
about not, taking or not, and they concluded not. It would have been awful tough for him to then sneak back and grab a shield without being noticed.
Okay. I mean, so that seems odd. So it seems like they've kind of set it up to say, oh, but will he be murdered or not? And he
Right.
really sounds like he will be. But then there must be a reason. I do trust the editors. There must be
I,
something going on here. We'll
I
have to
mean, my
see.
initial thought was there won't be a murder
Yeah.
because there was no hint of anyone else taking a shield, but maybe the fact that there was no hint is the clue that someone else did it and they're going
Yes.
to surprise us.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
I see. So then we're going in saying, oh, I think that no one took a shield, so there can't be a
right.
murder. But
And then there'll be a flashback to one person grabbing
yes.
one.
Yeah. I would be astounded if not a single one of those players didn't. I mean, again, I think they're wrong. I think you just should. I think you just should. But then I
Yeah.
suppose it's just that the narrative could be you took that because you're a traitor, because then you get a chance to murder, whoever does it. Maybe they're so terrified of actually just being accused of being a traitor for
I mean, they
blocking.
may not say, they may not come
Yeah.
forward. It would be ridiculously dumb in that mission to sneak a shield and then
Yeah.
come out later and tell people that you
Yeah,
did it. I
true.
mean,
True.
so.
Yes, people give up information in this game, not only on this season, but
Yeah.
on other ones, far too easily.
Yes. Yes. So with that, so we're both predicting Colton will be murdered.
Mhm.
Who do you think will be banished?
Uh, I mean, the edit is leading us towards, the ones who were in the firing line. So I guess Ron. Um, but I don't know. I just think if Colton is gone, then different energies could emerge. The traitors have had so little heat on them, particularly Candice,
Yes.
and Rob, the only remaining Rob. Sorry.
Yes.
Um, but Lisa's now starting to get some. So it's going to take an awful lot of momentum in order to get a traitor out. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll just go for one, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's what I was. I mean, he just can't keep surviving the way he's
No.
playing. I just, I mean, maybe they'll find a way, but I think he's gone.
Hmm.
All right. With that, before we have some questions. We've been we've been going for a little while here, so we don't want to, make this too long. So we'll get through the questions pretty quickly, I think. But um, do you have any final thoughts on these two episodes?
Just kind of like I said at the start of this episode, really, I found myself enjoying these episodes much more than the first three. Um, I'll be honest, I struggled a little bit, and I think that's simply because after having watched the UK season and other international seasons, and we've had a couple of UK ones, haven't we? We've had the celebrity one and now the civilian
Mhm.
season four. The American show is a lot. The celebrity one is a lot. It'll be interesting to see when they do the, civilian version, the
Right.
American Peacock version. Let's see. I think it's still going to be a lot. It's still got Alan Cumming. So I don't know. I found myself like just recoiling a little bit from the whole Michael Rappaport of it, but also some of the other players. I was just like, wow, this is exhausting. And three episode dropping at once, I found it is a lot.
Well,
I
this was
understand.
two, but it was still a lot. Yes.
No, but just that those first three, I was like,
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
this is a bit much. And again, I could have eked it out, and I tried. I think I watched it over like 2 nights, but it's like
Hmm.
this is still a lot of information, a lot of people, a lot of
Right.
noise. So I found myself thinking, right, I'm not massively into this. And finally, episode 4 and 5, I felt the game, even though we still had a couple of noisy ones, luckily one of them is now gone.
Mhm.
I felt that the gameplay stepped up a little bit. And I do feel, for example, the traitors are now playing it a little bit, just a little bit more like traitors. My favorite bit of the
Right.
whole show probably is the turret chat when they are really playing strategy. I feel it
Yes.
just gets my little tingling senses going when they go, right, that person's suspecting you, but that's too obvious. Or is it too obvious?
Right.
Could
Right.
you pull off the double bluff? Not sure. Those conversations are so interesting. I think in conclusion, I think that my issue is that when players think they are more interesting than the game, it doesn't go well. That let's be clear, the star of this show is the format.
Yep.
And the players are the players, and when they try and like be more interesting, more exciting than the format, it doesn't go well, and we miss something. And the American show, too often we do that. By the end, it always works out because they've been ground down. All their defenses are down, all the kind of bravado, all their most fancy outfits have been worn in the first few episodes, and before by the end, they're in sweatpants and they're just saying, "Okay, let's get this done."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have some hope for the civilian version.
Mm,
The application website says we are looking for smart, strategic, everyday people to compete in the ultimate game of trust and treachery.
mm,
So, I mean, at least the way they're advertising it is come play the game,
yeah,
not come run around and yell at people.
yeah.
So,
Yes, yeah, I'll look forward to that too. Although too much traitors. If I'm only gonna now, we've got what is it, Australia and New Zealand coming back. I mean, you're very
yep.
welcome, Antipodeans. Can't wait to see you. But goodness me, we're gonna have a lot of traitors. But hey,
Yes.
it is a first world problem.
Yes. Yes. All right. My final thoughts. There were so many examples of poor play in these two episodes.
Mm,
Colton just continuing to fire away no matter what. Ron refusing to play the social game. Michael being himself. Of course, the latter was the worst. And like the other players, I'm glad to see him gone. I wanted to see him gone first.
yeah.
I wanted to see him gone in episode, well, two, I guess. But and like they said, he just wouldn't shut up. He's a big dumb jerk. Goodbye. I was sad, on the other hand, to see Monet and Tiffany go. As I mentioned previously, Monet felt like one of the gamers to me. So we essentially lost two more of them. And Tiffany's banishment was just sad, and Colton really needs to pay the price for that.
Yeah.
With that, we have some Q&A. So some of these came to me through the Traitors email. Some came to me through Blue Sky. Meredith says, I love your Traitors podcast, and the Survivor ones too, of course. Thank you, Meredith. It seems that the gamers were doomed from the start based on the meta that there would be two gamers and an other in the turret. Was there a way for producers to reset that meta without having a season like this with no gamers in the turret? It seems like season 5 gives everyone a hard reset, but was season 4 always going to be a lost cause for the gamers? I think so. I think that really they were, Ian and Rob, right off the bat, were the sacrificial lambs. Tiffany, not as much. But I think Ian and Rob were the sacrificial lambs to this change in format. And both of them mentioned it in their interviews or in other places. I can't remember exactly where Ian mentioned it. But yeah, when you have two housewives in there and no gamers, and you have Donna as the secret traitor with no game sense, you're setting it up that way because the seasons historically have been, the meta has been housewives versus gamers. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be that way. Like Sandra got in good with the housewives when she was there, but that's the way it has been perceived. And so, when you have a couple of big threats, got to get rid of them. What do you think?
Well, what we are watching here is a game, and we're watching a television entertainment program. And we have this, fans of the Eurovision Song Contest are very aware that we're watching an entertaining show with lots of, songs, glitzy outfits, colors, all of that, and it's entertaining and there's points. But we're also watching a contest, and the balance between the fairness of and purity of the game and the entertainment is something that's constantly rubbing up against each other. Why I say that, David, is that there is one very, very simple way to reset it immediately. And it's something I do not think, particularly the American version, would ever do. Let's say not at least in the near future, which is what they did on, I think, the first season, maybe all seasons. No, I think the first season of Norway. If we were playing the lying game, you would think that I'm making this up, but it literally did happen, which is host comes in and shuffles a pack of cards. And when they're blindfolded, pulls one out, shows it to the camera, that's our traitor. And then another one, that's the second traitor, and another one, that's the third traitor. So it is utterly random. Now, TV producers would be like screaming at the podcast right now saying, we would never do that. We would never do that. We need entertainment. We need a contrast. What happens if, what happens if, what happens if?
Yeah, because they did such a good job by picking Donna themselves. So.
Well, exactly. I think this is where sometimes the producers get a little bit, that we need this, we need that. No. That would be a fascinating mechanic to say, this time around, you think you know how it's going to go. It is random because then we immediately, so long as we are clear that it is a random selection. You could even have, independent adjudicator say, someone else come in and say, this is random. Watch it. It is random. Suddenly, all the meta of what the producers are thinking goes out the window. Right. How exciting would that be to say, we do not know. You say, oh, we've got two housewives. It can't be another. Yes, they're good. That's how randomness works. So there you go. Little hint. Because the reason I say that is that they're going to keep getting themselves tied up in this whole thing of meta, which is,
Well, because next time the players are going to say, well, they clearly wouldn't do two seasons back to back with no gamers in
Yep,
there. So there must be at least one gamer and possibly two. So the
exactly.
gamers are still going to pay the price.
And listen, the sweet spot, like in Eurovision, so the whole thing with
Mhm.
Eurovision is that they originally, it was the running order of the songs was totally random, totally random. But then there were some shows where it's like, do we really need to start this show where it gets like 200 million viewers with six incredibly boring ballads?
Yeah.
That's not great. So they
Yeah.
started to introduce
Yeah.
producer-led running order, and now they've got a halfway house where you draw, am I first half, second half? A few of them, oh, producer gets to choose which half you go in. Okay, okay. But actually, what they could do is they could say, we're gonna, Alan, inverted commas, producers, is gonna pick two, and the third one will be entirely random. Or we're gonna
Yeah.
pick subsequent traitors entirely randomly. And again, the meta's gone. It's like they could say, well, we have,
Right.
okay, there's probably one housewife, there's probably one gamer, but who else? We don't know. So there you go. That's one way to get rid of this kind of never-ending meta, because I must admit, it's starting to do my head in a little bit, particularly with the whole Housewives gamers thing.
Yeah.
I'm bored of it, and I don't want this to go into the fifth season, please.
Yeah. What another way, and I think I've mentioned this, like not this season, but previously, another way would just be to do it, okay, all gamer season.
Yeah.
Now they'll never do that because they want to push the housewives and stuff.
Yeah.
And also, quite frankly, I'm not sure I want them to do that because the natural outgrowth of that is all Bravo season right after that. And I don't want to see that. So,
Although
but
I'm not a big Housewives fan, in fact, I've never seen an episode,
yeah.
but that could be quite, if they were to get the housewives and some of the husbands, that could be quite interesting.
All right, moving on to the next question. This is from Purple Jordan on Blue Sky. My question is, why can't we have nice things? And yes, that is the way many people are feeling. But I would say we finally got one nice thing. We got rid of Michael. And we may have two nice things if there is a murder and it's Colton. So that would be back-to-back nice things. Many people would be very happy at that. But yeah, I mean, Michael really, you mentioned this earlier. Michael, and to some extent Colton, but mostly Michael, really completely altered the tone of this entire season.
Yeah.
You were talking about people are not having fun. This is a game.
Yeah.
They came to play a game. Yes, it's a game for a lot of money, but it's a game. And they're just not having fun because of Michael. And why can't we have nice things? Because the producers thought it would be cool to cast Michael.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't cool. It was, it was terrible. You've got people down in the dumps. You've got Maura upset. You've got Ron, the comedian, moping around like Eeyore in large part because the whole tone of the game has been brought down because of one disgusting individual.
Yes, and this has happened before. I think it's not been as extreme as this, but it has happened before where there's just someone who's like so disruptive and just unpleasant. And you're like, I don't know. Like, we do have this nuance, don't we, that we say often that the UK version somehow is cozy. There's something kind of warm about it, even though they're all murdering each other and lying to each other. And I just think in these troubled times, you do actually want something a bit comforting, a bit reassuring. I'm not saying they all need to be nice to each other, but it was just hard to watch.
Right. Yeah. Especially after seeing what a celebrity version can be in the UK.
Yes.
People who played hard, but they were nice. They weren't jerks all the time. They genuinely liked one another. And so, yeah.
This will be, like you say, very interesting to see how they cast the civilian American season.
Well, and how they cast the next celebrity version. Will production learn their lesson and stop, not cast people like Michael? Or will they be like, ooh, conflict, it was great.
Yeah.
No, stop it.
Well, I mean, so the conflict we like or we enjoy, I think, I'll speak for myself, is I don't know if I'm not really spoiling previous seasons, but when you have very quirky personalities, possibly in the turret, shouting at each other and being a bit crazy, but you feel there's something a bit genuine, and actually both of those people are nice people. They just rubbed up
Right.
against each other. They weren't just going off, it wasn't their own demons so much. It was
Yeah.
more like a clash of personalities, and it never felt horribly spiteful. It was just literally two people saying, you have dobbed me in, you
Yeah.
are you are ruining my game. And that was more compelling because I end up liking both people in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, the next question is from Nora Linda. Now, this is multi-part. We're going to race through some of this. She said, Candace is playing a phenomenal game. I agree. Other Rob also playing very well. I agree. She feels bad for Ron. He is forgetting to be funny. And is acting defensive, and the fight with Dorinda was dumb. I think this all comes back to what we just said. I accidentally answered her question before we got to it, which is it's just he's been beaten down by Michael and some of the others. And so she says Michael had one good read regarding the three hunks. Sorry, Nora, I would not even credit him with that, because he was also earlier like, well, there's 5 gamers. There must be one gamer. There's 5 housewives. There must be one housewife. He's making these assumptions. So yes, he was right that one of the 3 hunks is a traitor, but he could have just as easily been wrong. It's random. So, and then she also asks, where's Jam Jam's charm? Because Jam Jam on Survivor, very charming guy. Outside Survivor, very charming guy. Same thing. He started taking the brunt of Michael from the get-go.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that he was, somewhat beaten down as well. And it's, like I said, it's just impacting everything. So as we've been talking here, we got a late breaking voicemail from Alice, but as it turns out, we already addressed it, because Alice was asking about those 4 shields in the last 2 statues. They had the same thought that we did when talking about it, in terms of, did production put those in so they would be in the last 2 or not? So we've already addressed that. Thank you for the voicemail, Alice. Sorry that I answered it before we even knew you asked the question. But keep sending in your questions.
We're all on the same wavelength with
Yes.
this. We see a little bit of production trickery.
Yes. So with that, we are wrapping things up here. Next week, we will only have 1 episode, so this podcast should be a lot shorter, I would imagine. In the meantime, MaJiKer, where can people find you?
I'm going to do a plug for my Substack, which there's nothing on it yet, but there will be soon. So yeah, come follow me on Substack. I'm going to be talking about music, about listening, about coaching, thoughts, music, poetry, who knows. But yeah, that would be a great way to follow me. So you can just Google MaJiKer Substack. I'm sure you'll find it. I think it's probably majiker.substack.com. I should probably fix that up, but I think it is anyway. In any case, you can, otherwise you can just go to my website, majiker.com, or Instagram, it's majiker_.
Well, I am all over social media and reality TV podcasting. And I do have a Substack, but I've never done anything with it. I finally came up with a name for it. It took me forever to come up with a name. I even have a few subscribers who are anxiously awaiting me to do anything with it, and I haven't. So I am not suggesting you find it and follow me. I mean, you can, but I don't know that I will ever do anything with it, because I'm doing so much else with video and podcasts and everything else that it takes up a lot of time. So mostly right now, I am here as I join other Matthew, to discuss the Traitors UK every 3rd episode, and of course for every episode of the Traitors US. And we did a special crossover episode of the Traitors to compare and contrast the UK and US season so far, especially the Secret Traitor twist. So if you haven't listened to that yet, I definitely recommend it, of course. In addition, I am doing my TikTok and YouTube videos, most of which are for the Traitors US and the Traitors UK, plus some lead-ins for Survivor 50, a few for Beast Games. Most importantly, my mini Why Blank Lost videos for every player murdered and banished in the Traitors US. You can find me as @David Bloomberg TV on the video sites. You can find all my various accounts at Linktree/David Bloomberg. You can also reach out to the Traitors in general and find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, where we are at the Traitors Podcast. And you can email the Traitors Podcast at gmail.com, or send in voice messages like Alice did for us to play, or in this case, not play, sorry, at memo.fm/the Tradar podcast. If you would like to help support the podcast, you can contribute on coffee.com. That's ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley. These are one-time donations. They're not like Patreon where you sign up for like a monthly subscription. So you can give whatever you like, whenever you feel like it. Plus, the Tradar now has merch like shirts and mugs. Yes, that was a pause so that MaJiKer could show his mug. You can find these at thetradar.redbubble.com. So, MaJiKer, thank you so much for joining me for these 2 episodes. I will be back here tomorrow for the Traitors UK episode 9. I believe you will be on the Traitors UK, one of the episodes coming up soon.
Coming up soon, yes. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been an absolute joy to talk about US. And I am going to do my catchphrase, which only works when proper Matthew, says his. So this is going to be pretty absurd. I'm going to say my catchphrase, and then I'll leave you to say yours. How does that sound?
All right. Well, yes, tune in for the rest of us. And next week, I will be here for episode 6 of the US, and I will be happy there is just one episode. Hit us with your catchphrase.
Here we go. Out of nowhere, not rhyming with anything. It's ridiculous. Dig them potatoes.
And before I say mine, I just want to say you came up with that at the same time that Alan came up with the combination of what you and other Matthew say when he told the players later taters. And I was like, he combined the two.
We're all in the same, this potato traitory space. Yes. So, dear listeners, make sure you dig them potatoes.
And stay traitorous.